overnight. So Eric and I would lose our beds. So we have to vacate and go to our dad's and mom's room. And I think my mom would go over to the girls while we are the boys with my father. She always repeated that to me, that I was a chubby kid and that they smiled at me getting my pillow out of the room, a pillow that I loved. And I don't know if they pitied me for what they were doing, but anyway, my dad was saying no, because Manang Ami is the favorite of my father. Most of us are boys. Gustilos are mostly boys, except these two Lopezes that are girls. But you see, Luis has two boys. So, Manang Ami is one of the rare girls of the Gustilo clan. Until you see Tito Roming Gustilo that has 5 girls. And that is very exceptional. But the Valderramas, the many others, are normally just boys. So, if I remember right, my mom would tell that when she was infanticipating her pregnancy for my brother, Daddy gave her a picture of Manang Ami. It's in one of our albums, and Dad said to Mom to stare at the face, the beautiful face of your mom. That's how, if you look at the face of Eric, I think he could be more the brother of your mom than my brother. They have a kind of same face, because my mother was to stare at that picture. We got disconnected because of my being in a seminary. We reconnected when your grandpa died, and she came from the States, I think. And I don't know, in those years that I was already a young priest, she told me if I could be her spiritual director. And I said, "You're older than me." And so I directed her to Father Thomas Green, who directed her for 27 years. But more than Thomas Green, the great Jesuit, she was directed by the Blessed Sacrament. She learned this from a sister of the Franciscan missionaries of a school, I forget now, Stella Maris, in Quezon City. She lived in Limbaga, Scout Limbaga. And that's where she brought her to love the Eucharist, the hour of prayer. You know, the Eucharist to this day remains quiet, silent. It's a real presence, but it becomes quite unassuming. I do not know if you long to pass by the Blessed Sacrament. I think you would queue if the Holy Father would be in the Philippines and ask for an appointment, right? But Jesus Christ, that's just the vicar. Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament is the real one. But that's how it is. We think of majesty and grandeur and high positions, of course, but the unassuming gesture of God, we call it in our theological language, condescension. In Tagalog, it's called pagpapakumbaba, the bending down. And when you bend down, normally it's you wash the feet of your master. When you bend down, you do it as a servant. And so in the letter of Paul to the Philippians, earlier than what we read, he says, though he was God, he did not think of himself equal to him. He emptied himself. John Paul II will call this, could you imagine eternity becomes time, counted, second for second, minute for minute, hour for hour. All of a sudden, the one who made the universe becomes so small, so limited, so vulnerable to this very day. And he's very vulnerable to you and me. We could just, not mind him. And that's okay. In a way, I think that's what Manang Ami did. The people that are not so much minded by people, she gave time. I heard that Luis realized that her mother, once she left you kids to go to Mindanao with Father J.J. Hasena to do mission work for 2 months or something. But later this time, she would give recollections to women who got pregnant and could not call a man to be their husband, left by themselves at the Heart of Mary Villa facility of the Good Shepherd Nuns. I think she would take a taxi, if not the MRT, and go to Aurora Boulevard, alight in front of the St. Bridget's School, and give her morning recollection to these girls. She would use her music to calm their fears, even maybe to calm their anger at life. But of course, her own stories of brokenness, that was her gift. She was as broken as they are. She was once as broken as they are. And I tell you, that is the Lord Jesus. He shared our brokenness. If you look at the Eucharist, it is first broken. He took bread, said the blessing, broke it. And the purpose is that to be given up for you. The same with the blood, it was shed, poured out for you. Lately, she would, because of pandemic, she was not able to do this, but she resumed, but closer home. She would go to the Bel Air 3 facility and give this simple retreats to the kasambahay. She took care of what the Holy Father calls the laylayan, the peripheries. Those that did not count were to her people who counted. She gave her time that she could have spent more for her likes, for her whatever way of dealing with old age and seniority, but she was giving this time. And I said that this is, I think for me, the fruit of staying before the Blessed Sacrament in adoration. But she told me she missed a lot when, because of the pandemic, even our adoration chapel in St. John Bosco that she would go to often was closed. When your dad passed on, your mom texted me, my husband last meal was the Eucharist. They had a falling out, but they had a coming back. I'm so happy that Louise told me that her mom told her she wanted to be buried in the same columbary of her husband. That's why we're here. And she texted me and said, and I closed his eyes. You were here, maybe Angela, and it was Louise who was out. And she was there in the Makati Medical, and she said, I closed his eyes. After 27 years of disconnection, God gave her heart a desire to reconnect and to be one. When she asked me, when your mom asked me, Buddy, what happened there? I said, do you know that when you go before the Blessed Sacrament and you are married to Maki, do you know that the Lord did not only consider you alone? Because the two of you are now one. Look at these two girls. They are not Ami, they are not Maki. They are both their father and their mother. So when she was there present before the Lord, though not having physically her husband with her, through those years, nearly 25 years, the Lord did not consider her individually alone. She was a married woman. And God, Jesus himself said, let no one put asunder what God has put together. So how could God even think that they are asunder? In his heart, they are just one. And that's what we are celebrating today. The heart of this woman, schooled by the simplicity, humility, and the silence of the Eucharist, that I said, more often than not, we ignore. We're also culpable. How do I end with this text? I'm sorry for the women here, but in our Bible study, I asked a lawyer. It seems to be time immemorial, my dear guys, please listen to me, that men have used women. Human society, the male society, has always instrumentalized the women to bring down other men. That was why they caught this woman in the act of adultery. Could you just imagine? They must have waited. I don't know who went into whose house. Is it the guy or is it this woman? But this was planned maliciously. They made sure that on the act of committing adultery, they will catch her. Now I asked the lawyer, please don't go against us. But the law says, if a woman in the Philippines is caught making an act of adultery, she becomes a criminal. That's a criminal act. But if a man, until he places this woman as a concubine, he is not a criminal act for him. Could you imagine? Could you imagine to this current postmodern age, our laws are tilted towards the men. And they placed this woman to test and to find a way to put a charge against Jesus. You know, I feel when Jesus bent down, it was out of shame for being male. As if he said, how could you? A man like you can do this malicious, evil action. But I asked for a scripture scholar, and he said, do you know that that adulterous woman was not doing it as, like we could say, casual sex. She had a lover. In Tagalog, meron siyang kabit. O, siya yung kabit. Right? And so at the end, what happened? Jesus said, sin no more. I do not condemn you, but do not go back to him anymore. Wow. That's a very tall order. Now I'll tell you, my ending is this for us in the Lenten season. I ask you please, have you met the Lord? Have you experienced His mercy that makes you not go back anymore? Or we go to confession and we say, Father, like before, pareho lang. How come we never change? How come we have the same favorite sins? Because anyway, there's venial sins, they're small. And so because we think we have small sins, we have a small appreciation of the love and mercy of God. What a miss we have. I was so glad that God gave me a once-in-a-lifetime experience of His mercy. When I had my head-on collision, I almost died. I remembered my teacher of First Communion. In the moment that you don't have a chance to go to confession and you're in sin, you better make an act of contrition. Make it perfect. And she said, the sister said, say it twice. On that August 19, more or less 4:15 in the afternoon, I said the act of contrition twice. And by God's mercy, I survived. Eric gave me a Kia Pride. I lost my pride. But I got redeemed by God. That realization came so strong to me 4 years after, when I had in a retreat where my spiritual director said, Francis, could you ask God to tell you what He feels when you are in sin? In that meditation, I was blessed that I saw myself full of blood in the impact between that light ace and the car, face to face. So much blood came over me. And I said, this must be that thing. 4 years ago, I was drinking my blood from the nose. And I thought I was dying because I could not breathe. But then it was too much blood. Because when that impact came, I looked to my left and I saw the face of the Franco Seferelli, Jesus of Nazareth. John Powell. What? It was his blood, not mine, that covered me, that made me survive. Then and there I realized His mercy. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. And I will sing His praises. And I'm not ashamed, I'm not embarrassed to tell you. He came in great mercy to my life. I wish it for every one of you. And I think the experience of Manang Ami made her appreciate the mercy of God so great for her husband that since 17 years, she has been giving that mercy of God in her service to the least and to the lost. Is she unique to do this? No. You are as human as her. You can do the same. And I think Manang Ami tells us tonight, pay it forward. If you would come over with an act of gratitude of prayer for her repose, I would like to think that what is placed in the biggest cemetery of Rome, the cemetery of San Lorenzo, on the arch it says, "You are and I was like you. I am and you will be like me." She has transited from this life to the fullness of it. Death is not a loss. As for St. Paul, still alive but in prison, he said, "It's gain because I came to know the love of God in Jesus Christ." I believe in God, the Father Almighty,